Mr. Chair, thanks so much for holding this hearing. I appreciate it. As committee Democrats organized this week, we set priorities for this Congress to promote investments in cleaner, greener, safer, and more accessible transportation network, to ensure these investments create jobs and opportunities, to build capacity in our communities as they put federal dollars to work, to restore and protect our environment, and to safeguard our nation's economic sustainability and competitiveness. I know members on both sides of the aisle share many of these goals, and we do stand ready to work together in good faith where we can find common ground. We have come a long way in 2 years. At the start of the 117th Congress, we faced an unprecedented economic challenge as COVID-19 placed incredible stress on American workers and families, as well as massive pressure on supply chains. These pressures expose the fragilities of an aging, congested, and overburdened transportation and infrastructure network that was dangerously overdue for an overhaul. Last Congress, we finally responded decisively to bolster our economy and limit the fallout from the immediate crisis facing our nation, while modernizing and transforming the way people and goods move with the passage of several landmark bills: the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or BIL. This committee had the largest role in delivering the BIL and will continue to focus on the implementation of the $660 billion that we have oversight, where we have oversight. This dollar amount and the number of grant opportunities is significantly larger than any previous transportation or infrastructure authorization that the DOT has administered. And the pace at which these dollars are reaching communities is impressive. DOT has already made available over $150 billion in highway, transit, and airport formula money over fiscal years 22 and 23. And these are not federally controlled dollars. This funding passes through the DOT, U.S. DOT directly to states and local governments to build projects designed and built by private sector construction and engineering firms and workers they hire in everyone's districts. That's why that you will hear me say frequently that transportation means jobs. States have launched 29,000 new projects with federal highway formula funding in fiscal year 22, according to an analysis from the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. That's at least one new project underway in every congressional district in the country. The BIL also provides funding for competitive grant programs, and to date, the administration has announced funding for 6,900 projects under competitive grants to over 4,000 communities nationwide for roads, bridges, rail, buses, ferries, ports, for safety projects and other infrastructure needs. BIL grants provide strong support for projects in geographically diverse areas. Under the RAISE grant program, funds are awarded evenly between rural and urban areas. In the latest round of infra grants totaling $1.5 billion, 15 of 26 projects selected were in rural areas. The Rural Surface Transportation Grant Program awarded $274 million to 12 projects in its first funding round as well. And it supports major projects that are larger than any one state or community could advance, such as the recently announced grants for the Hudson Tunnels in New York and the Brent Spence Bridge connecting Ohio and Kentucky. BIL also includes grants exclusively for tribes and local communities, such as the Tribal Transportation Program Safety Funds and Safe Streets and Roads for All, to ensure these communities reap the benefits of transportation investments. So we have 4 more years of this bill to implement for states and local communities and tribes that we have oversight to continue. We need to ensure that the investments represent a benefit for local priorities, put people to work in our districts, and maintain and modernize our infrastructure. However, this won't happen if we play chicken with the U.S. ability to invest, especially invest in our competitiveness, and threaten the U.S. economy with a catastrophic default on our debt. That would set back infrastructure projects immeasurably. So we need to ensure that we find a way to come up with a debt ceiling deal so that infrastructure investments and the money that comes with it are not cut or eliminated over time. And I hope we can focus some of our work on defining what would happen if there was a default and what would happen to transportation investments. I look forward to working with you. We're getting here today about how inflation is undercutting purchasing power of federal transportation dollars. We'll hear today as well about how the BIL has invested in U.S. competitiveness in our transportation infrastructure. And finally, with the time I have left, I want to emphasize the human infrastructure, the need to develop today's necessary workforce and to build a pipeline for new workers in the next generation of infrastructure investment. I want to thank our witnesses today. With that, I yield back.
Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome all of our witnesses here today and thank you for coming in and for your testimony. Just to explain the light system real quick, green means go, yellow means you're running out of time, and red means you're out of time. But I'd ask unanimous consent that the witnesses' full statements be included in the record, and without objection, that is so ordered. As your written testimony has been made part of the record, the committee asks that you try to limit your remarks to 5 minutes. And with that, we have Mr. Chris Spear, who's the President and Chief Executive Officer of the American Trucking Association. Thanks for being here.
Chairman Graves, Ranking Member Larsen, and members of this committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. For 90 years, the ATA has helped Congress shape its understanding of our nation's infrastructure needs and supply chain challenges, and today's oversight is both welcome and timely. The IIJA provided a 38% increase in road and bridge funding, a historic investment not witnessed since the Eisenhower era. Prior to passage, ATA testified 25 times before the House and Senate, sharing how the decaying state of our nation's infrastructure is hamstringing America's ability to compete with rising global powers like China. In short, a first world economy cannot survive a developing world infrastructure. While the ATA strongly supported the IIJA, it was not a perfect piece of legislation. No bill is. This hearing provides oversight